Hi, I'm Martin. Welcome to Oxford Online English. In this lesson, you can learn how to use vague language in English.
What's vague language and why do you need it? Here's a question. Do you ever feel like you can't find the right word to express what you want to say?
We've got good news. You don't always need to find exactly the right word. The word vague means that something is not clear or detailed. In spoken informal English, fluent speakers often use vague language. For example, if you ask me what I did yesterday and I reply, just some stuff at home, that's a vague answer. I'm not giving you details.
Using vague language will make your English sound more natural. It will also make it easier to speak fluently because you can communicate without needing to use precise vocabulary. Don't forget to check out our website to learn more about spoken English and how you can speak better English. oxfordonlineenglish.com. You can also improve your English in online classes with one of our professional teachers. But now, let's look at how you can use vague language when you speak. So, what are your plans for tomorrow?
First, I'm going into the city centre. I need to buy a shirt and some toothpaste. Then at 10:30, I'm meeting William Bukowski for coffee at the cafe on Gloucester Square. What about you?
I have to spend 2 hours working in the morning. Then I'm meeting 6 old friends. We're going to go for a drink. Then to an Italian restaurant where they serve 44 different kinds of pizza.
Really? I love Italian food. I especially like caprese salad, spaghetti vongole, pizza romana, ravioli, tiramisu, panna cotta. Did that sound like a natural conversation to you? Hopefully it didn't. Why do you think that is? What made it sound slightly weird?
The problem was that there was too much detail. If someone asks you an everyday question like, what are your plans for tomorrow? You don't need to give every detail of your plans. This is where vague language can be useful. Vague language lets you avoid unnecessary detail, which allows you to express your ideas more efficiently. Let's see another version of this conversation. This time, we'll use vague language to avoid unnecessary detail. So, what are your plans for tomorrow?
I'm going into the city centre to buy some stuff. Then I'm meeting a friend for coffee. You?
I have to do some work in the morning, then I'm meeting a few old friends later. We're going for a drink, then to an Italian restaurant, where they have lots of different kinds of pizza.
Really? I love Italian food, especially the pasta. I really like spaghetti vongole and things like that. Here's a question. Can you remember all of the differences between the two dialogues? Let's look at some of the language you heard. First, the words thing and stuff are useful. In the dialogue, you heard, I'm going into the city centre to buy some stuff. You can use thing or things to refer to an object or objects. For example, give me that thing to clean the window. Don't forget to take your things with you.
You can also use stuff in a similar way. Remember that stuff is uncountable. For example, we're only going for 2 days, so we don't need much stuff. Every time I move apartments, I throw loads of stuff away.
Both words, thing and stuff, can also be used to talk about things you have to do. For example, I have to go to that thing tonight. I have a lot of stuff to do next week.
You can also use vague language when talking about numbers. When talking about numbers or quantities, you can avoid unnecessary detail by using expressions like lots of, loads of, a few, a couple, and so on. For example, instead of saying, they sent me 34 emails yesterday, you can say, they sent me loads of emails yesterday.
Instead of saying, I saw 6 of my old school friends last night, you can say, I saw a few of my old school friends last night.
And instead of saying, I have to finish 3 more things, and then we can go, you can say, I have to finish a couple more things, and then we can go.
In these cases, it's more natural to avoid giving the exact number, unless the number is somehow important. Finally, another way to use vague language is when shortening a list. Imagine that your friend just came back from vacation, and you ask, what did you do? Your friend says, we went swimming in the sea, sunbathed on the beach, read books, ate in restaurants, took a surfing lesson, visited different villages, slept a lot, went for a bike ride, and spent one day sightseeing in the city. That doesn't sound good, right? Sounds quite robotic. In informal speech, we usually shorten long lists by using a phrase on the end like, and that kind of thing. And things like that. And so on. Or something like that.
So your friend might say, we went to the beach, did some sightseeing and things like that. This is more natural. It's also more polite in a way. When you say something like this, you're giving some details, but not every detail. This shows that you're engaged in the conversation, but it also shows that you understand that the person you're talking to probably doesn't want to hear every single detail. Using vague language to avoid unnecessary details is common, but vague language also has other uses. Let's look.
How about going to the cinema tomorrow?
Could do. What were you thinking?
We could see that documentary about climbing in Yosemite. Looks really interesting.
I'm not interested in seeing that. I'd choose to watch something else, like that Japanese horror film everyone's talking about.
I guess we could do that. What time should we meet?
Come to my place at 4 o'clock. Then we could walk down together.
All right. Of course, in some situations, vagueness is bad. For example, if you have a contract or a legal document, it shouldn't be vague. In general, we prefer to avoid vagueness in writing. However, in everyday speech, using vague, indirect language can help you to sound more polite.
In this dialogue, I was direct. This might be fine if you're talking to someone you know well, but being so direct could seem rude in another situation. Let's see how you could use vague language to sound more polite in the same situation.
How about going to the cinema tomorrow?
Could do. What were you thinking?
We could see that documentary about climbing in Yosemite. Looks really interesting.
That's not really my thing. I'd kind of prefer to watch something else, like that Japanese horror film everyone's talking about.
I guess we could do that. What time should we meet?
You could come to my place around 4 o'clock. Then we could walk down together.
All right. What changed? If you just look at the words, it's almost the same. But nonetheless, the tone is quite different. Here, Marie was more indirect. Instead of saying, I'm not interested in that, she said, that's not really my thing.
Instead of saying, I'd choose to watch something else, I said, I'd kind of prefer to watch something else.
Instead of saying, come to my place at 4 o'clock, she said, you could come to my place around 4 o'clock.
Let's see what's happening here. Imagine that a friend comes to your home. You notice your friend looks cold, so you ask, shall I turn on the heater? Compare 2 answers. Yes, please, it's cold in here. Yes, please. It's kind of cold in here. What's the difference?
The first answer sounds very direct, which could sound impolite. It sounds a bit like criticism. By using the phrase kind of, you make the second answer vaguer and therefore more indirect. You can use the phrases kind of or sort of in this way. For example, can I have some milk? The food's kinda spicy. Here's another example. I kinda just want to stay in tonight. Saying I want to stay in tonight sounds direct. Adding kind of makes it sound softer.
You might also use this with times. For example, you can use the words about or around when arranging to meet someone, especially if it's a casual meeting. For example, let's meet at 4. This is more direct, which could sound like an order. Let's meet at about 4. This is more indirect, so it sounds more like a suggestion.
Of course, you don't always want to use vague language. If your friend needs to be there by 10 o'clock at the latest, then you shouldn't say, can you get here around 10? But in other cases, using vague language will make you sound more indirect, which often sounds more polite. Have you seen their apartment? It's amazing.
Who do you mean?
Julia and the husband, what's his name? Can't remember. Anyway, you know them, right?
Vaguely. I haven't been to their place.
It's incredible. It's like something out of a sci-fi film. They have that thing,
I don't know.
that, whatchamacallit. I've never seen one before.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's some weird name. It'll come to me in a minute.
Often, English learners speak about native speakers as if native English speakers are all-knowing, but that isn't the case. No native speaker knows every word in English. People also forget words all the time. So what can you do if you don't remember the word for something? Vague language can be your friend. Take a look. What does this thingy do? You can use this little what's it to take the back off your phone. I found a little metal thingamajig in my desk drawer. No idea where it came from.
Words like thingy, what's it, or thingamajig are not normally used in written English. You can use them when you're speaking if you don't know what something's called. You can also do this with people if you've forgotten someone's name. For example, I've got a meeting with what's-his-face from the ad company tomorrow. He's moving in with what's-her-name, that girl he met at his friend's wedding.
What's his face is a word made from the question, what is his face? Which makes no sense, and it's not really clear where it comes from. What's her name is easier to understand. It's made from the question, what is her name? You can change the words to talk about men or women. What's his face or what's her face? What's his name or what's her name?
Again, these words cannot be used in written English. They're also informal, so you shouldn't use them unless you know the person that you're talking to well. You should also never use these words directly to somebody's face. You can't say, hey, what's his face? Good to see you. Well, I've forgotten your name. This does not sound good.
Could vague language be helpful for you when you're speaking English? How do you think it could help? Please share your ideas in the comments. Can you think of anything we haven't mentioned in this video? Thanks for watching.
See you next time.